Hi everyone, my name is Donnie Lowy. I'm here at Closeoutexplosion.com. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today I'd like to discuss with you opening up your own store versus selling at a flea market. Which one is better? What are the advantages and challenges of each option? So let me give you some background. When I first started my wholesale business, and this is years ago, I went to the flea market. So I'm somewhat familiar with selling at a flea market. While I've never had my own store, I do have a wholesale business, so I interact with many people that have stores. My grandfather had a bakery for over 35 years. I worked here growing up, so I do have a good sense of the retail trade and the flea market business. So first of all, for starters, each one has its advantages. Let's put that out there. And this is probably a philosophical debate we could have, for months and months. What's a better business, flea market or having your own store? So I'm going to give you just some general ideas, what I observed, what people have shared with me, and hopefully that could help you. All right, so number one, the good thing about a flea market is that you primarily only pay for the days that the market is open. Yes, I know you could pay for the season, you could pay for the month, but still you have the option to only pay, let's say, for a day or a weekend. If you want to try a new flea market, you could pay, let's say, by the month. So if it doesn't work out, you don't have to continue. A store, you do have to make a major investment, just as far as even deposit. Sometimes you have to put down 2 or 3 months worth of a deposit. You have to pay your first month rent. Sometimes they'll give you 2 free months rent at the beginning, but you're putting out a lot of money and you're making a commitment, usually minimum of a year. Sometimes the lease could be for 5 or 10 years. Now, the advantage with a store is that you have a fixed location. Now, why is that a big advantage? Because with a flea market, you could rent a spot, but if next month they decide not to give you that spot, or if the flea market closes, or someone else comes and they buy that spot, I don't know, they go to the management and they say they really want that spot, and hopefully these things don't happen, but it's possible it could happen, and they pay money and they get that spot, then you have a big problem. But if you have a store, then you have a lease and you have that store for good. So if you build up your clientele, if people really know you, you get a following, people know where to find you, and that customers will be able to find you because you have a fixed location. Another advantage of a flea market is that the rent is usually relatively low, especially compared to a store, and you have the opportunity to sell to hundreds, if not thousands, of customers, right? Because a very popular flea market, such as a flea market, let's say flea markets that are in New York, flea markets that are in Florida, and I'm sure this is the same true for markets in other countries as well. Some of these markets could have hundreds and hundreds of people passing through a day, maybe sometimes even thousands. When I sold at the Queens Aqueduct Flea Market, I remember in a day, my recollection, there could be over 2,000-3,000 people going through the market. When you have a store, you're not going to have, unless you're in a really busy location, you're not going to have thousands of people passing by your store. Now, you can find a busy location where there are thousands of people, but then the rent is going to be astronomically high. So on a comparatively basis, the flea market, the rent is a lot less than it is for a store. Now, let's give an advantage to having a store. An advantage to having a store is that you're protected from the weather. If it rains a lot, your customers could still come inside. They could see your merchandise doesn't get wet. If it snows, as long as they clean the streets, people could come to your store. If it's a really brutally hot day, people could still come to your store. You could turn the air conditioner, turn on the fans. It's usually cooler inside than outside. But by a flea market, you're not protected from the weather. Yeah, and there are indoor flea markets, so let's put that out there. So if you have an indoor flea market, that does work better, but I think it's fair to say that an indoor flea market is already getting closer to the store model, but it's still a flea market. So if you could find an indoor flea market, you can in theory have the best of both worlds. Now, another challenge with a flea market, even if it's an indoor flea market, is that if the weather is not that great, people usually are not going to go travel to a flea market. To a store, they might, because sometimes it's a mall, a shopping mall, or there's enclosed parking nearby. So ideally, you find a flea market that has enclosed parking, and that could help you as well. Now, usually, another thing, actually, I was going to say that usually when the weather is not good, people don't travel to a flea market. That's just what I've experienced. With a store, the same thing could happen also, but people are, in my opinion, are more likely to travel to a store. Now, here's another advantage with a flea market. With a flea market, you can see right in front of you what it is that customers are buying, what it is that customers want, and what other vendors are selling, meaning what's popular. At a store, you kind of get closed in your own world, right? Like when I'm in my wholesale business, where I'm right now, so I'm in my wholesale business. I'm not out there every day seeing what other people are selling, right? I don't see every day hundreds of customers. But when you have a flea market, you get to interact with hundreds of people right away. I mean, you could see them, right? You could see what they're buying, what they want to buy, what they don't want to buy. And I want to put this out there because I do this. I try at least once a week to go out to the New York Fashion District and to interact with other wholesalers. I can't do it every week, but that is my aim. I would love to be able to do it at least once a week. And this way I'm able to see what products are popular, what products I should bring to my wholesale business. And also that's how I make sure that my prices are always below wholesale, because I interact with other people and see what they're selling their products for. Now, you can also do a lot of this research online. So let's see, another benefit of a flea market is that you can, in my opinion, you can be a lot more flexible with the merchandise, because usually at a flea market, you're taking just enough merchandise to set up in your booth, and that means you're also buying just enough merchandise maybe to have for 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 weekends. But by a store, you just need to stock up with a lot more merchandise, because you don't know which days are going to be your strong selling days. At a flea market, you have that weekend, or if you sell during the week also, but you have a much better idea how much merchandise you need, and generally a vendor has to carry less merchandise, so their costs are less as far as for inventory. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Now let me just actually give another advantage of a store. When you have a store, you can also have a website, and you can use a website to bring people to your store. When you have a flea market business, you can have a website and tell people to come to find you at a flea market, but it can be more difficult to know exactly where you're going to be, especially if you're at a market where you have to switch spots, and especially if it's, let's say, a flea market that just pops up maybe once a month. So it's going to be harder to direct people to come to you at the flea market during that time. With a store, it's easier to direct people to where you are. All right, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. My website is closeoutexplosion.com. My cell phone WhatsApp number is 1-917-913-6093. I carry brand name dresses, office dresses. I carry brand name children's clothing, fashion children's clothing. I get handbags, sometimes I get fashion jewelry, brand name jewelry, many different items, and I'd be very happy to see you. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day.